We are live. It is 3:03 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9:03 p.m. BST in the UK. This is the Nomad Tech Project with Sam and Joe, the best podcast nobody's ever heard of. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining. If you're in the chat, you should be. If you're not, you should be. That didn't come off right. It sounded wrong.
I know what you meant. It's all right. I know what you meant.
I know what I meant. It sounded right in here, but then I actually said the words. And again, opening. I never get it right. So anyway, if you're in the chat.
You say it's closing. It's normally closing you don't get right.
Right. Well.
Oh. I forgot to put Do Not Disturb on.
Right. Oh, yeah, exactly. If you're paying
Quite
attention
important.
to the stream, we got an important guest here. We have a guy who we all know we really like. Oh, see, you did the same thing. I
always do it wrong.
Michael Pepper Tech. Thanks for coming here on Sunday. I know it's always busy family time and just a relaxed day and everything. Well, thank you for taking an hour of your time to spend with us. I really appreciate it, sir.
No problem. It's a little interesting. It's an afternoon versus an evening. But, Joe has to mess everything up for us.
Yeah,
right.
Sorry, man.
Right. Between his whatever and my inability to actually conduct a podcast properly, even after doing it for 2 years, it's okay. I'm glad I'm good at my regular job because that makes me feel better when I come.
Yeah, I mean, you get paid for that, so yeah.
Well, we do.
That's more important.
I think we earned what? Did we get like $10 last month? I think like 9.
Yeah, but we actually paid out more, didn't we?
Yeah, that's true. So how are you doing?
It's all good.
It's a little bit of an afternoon. I realize that a lot of times I see you on shows and other streams. It's usually the evening, so I know it's a little different for you. So how you been? How are things going in the Michael Pepper Tech household and in your tech channel?
Good. Dealt with illness between me, my wife, and my son for I don't know, a month, and I still have a perpetual cough going on that I don't think will ever go away. Just what it is. And right now, being Michigan, early October, we just kind of officially started fall a couple weeks ago, and temperatures are going down. So you go from needing your AC to run because it was high humidity to all of a sudden your heat's got to be on and it's dry. So anybody with allergies and all that fun stuff gets to deal with the shift from one to the complete opposite, and then now you got to run a humidifier. So dealing with all fun balance. And my son started preschool like a couple months ago, so he's getting adjusted to that. And we had new products all released out, and so it's like, what do I talk about? What do I focus on? And so there's the joys of that and the balance of figuring things out, and it's all good though.
Yeah. So like I said, it seems like there isn't nowadays with the way the releases are between Apple events and a Pixel event and everything like that. It seems like there isn't. And it doesn't seem to be, maybe there isn't, maybe as much as there used to be the lulls where you get these like breaks where there would be like lulls where you'd be like, we really have nothing to talk about product wise or release wise or phone wise. So we kind of have to make up some fluff to kind of, fill in the gaps there. But it seems like right when you turn around, you got the Apple event, and then you had the Pixel event the other day, and then Microsoft's event is, I believe, on the 12th. October.
Xiaomi as well. Xiaomi 12T Pro.
Yeah. So if you're, they're always assuming. So for people like you who cover all this stuff, you're probably more about like, okay, now what do I prioritize? What do I get into? Something's gonna have to get left on the cutting room floor. What's it gonna be? And that's how hard is that to manage when you have all those kind of things going on? Do you have a process for that? I mean, how do you approach that with your work and your channel?
So when I first started, which will be 4 years ago, the end of January. So that was like iPhone 10, like Note 8 time. Those were like some of my first, I guess, major devices that I had and talked about and stuff. And I remember, September. It was actually, back to back was. Pixel, Apple, and then Samsung had their event in October. But then they moved stuff kind of around a bit. So now, we don't really have any Samsung discussion anymore since the Note series got pushed off until February. And then as far as like other things, Apple did their iPad event and their Mac event, but even those have moved around. There used to be kind of a quarterly, you had each thing that went on. You had the iPad event, you had the Mac event, you had the iPhone event, and then you had like the AirPods, music, other event. but now it's kind of all spread all over the place, and so like you said, there isn't really a lull as much as people would think. And then when you start looking at like Xiaomi and Vivo and OnePlus and Oppo and Huawei now is doing stuff, and there's discussion of how they're going to get around the whole US ban and potentially offering devices back in the US again by working with other companies to provide, and all discussion that's going on, and it's fascinating stuff. Um, and I need to get more and more into discussing, I guess you would say, like non-US based, Xiaomi devices, and I've just kind of started getting into that. I mean, I have my one of my favorite devices here, the Vivo X Fold, and
Oh, nice.
I had gotten the X80 Pro and then cracked it like a week after I got it, so it's now sitting in a box until I can get that fixed and figure that whole thing out. And I really wish that they would just send me the parts and I could just go to a local place, because they have delaminators here, so it wouldn't be a problem. Because the way that they integrate with the fingerprint sensor and the way that it's done in the layering is a little bit different. But there's companies around here that they do have the delamination tool, so it wouldn't really be an issue. And even if they didn't want to do it, I'd be like, hey, can I just borrow your delaminator? If I wreck it, it's on me, as far as like, because the parts are cheap, it's the labor and the shipping that's expensive. It's actually, the shipping is the most expensive part, because
Yeah, probably.
it's like $70 to have them fix it, but it's about $200 to ship it there.
Right.
And then they said they would they would pay the shipping back, but then there's the local customs and local like postal stuff that's going on there because of pandemic stuff. So what they allow like exchanges, but when it's repair stuff, so you have to be like really careful. And then they're like, well, you can just tell them it's a return, but then it's like, well, they know it's going into RMA warehouse though, so they'll know that it's not just a return.
They're not dumb,
Get stuck.
Right.
I'm like, are you gonna send me a new one if it gets stuck? And they're like, yes. And now my thinking is like, well, then why don't you just let me send the old one back to you and just send me a new one that I'll have to deal with that, if you would do that anyway. So now it's like, I'll just hold on to it and use it every once in a while and be careful about the glass. And then we have what's it, the 12T that was just announced, or that people are just touching on. And I was reading about the Poco. I think it's the follow up to like the M4 series that they're talking about, the next generation of that. And so the whole thing is like, I like to discuss what I'm using, but also now I'm starting to get back into discussion type content. So whether it's like philosophical tech discussion and like the idea of like kind of what's going on in tech space, but also even like kind of want to get into tech news, because there's a lot of exciting stuff, and then that's not necessarily stuff I can even get my hands on, but it does affect the progression of tech amongst all companies, because
Absolutely,
it's an international effect, and whether people want to believe that or not, it does.
Yeah, I think with the leaks, all the leaks you get as well.
And they do
tech news.
And they all pay attention. Don't let them fool you. They're all watching each other's stuff and seeing what R&D is going on. And then I know, and in some cases, you even have some people that are in R&D. These companies shift around, right? They go work for Vivo, and then they go work for Oppo, and then former HTC guys are working at Google when they wanted to, what I mean? So a lot of these people kind of bounce around. So they're definitely paying attention. It's not I don't think it's an industry.
Without doubt.
They're paying attention to what the competitors are doing, not only what they're bringing to market at the time, but maybe what's on their roadmap for 24 months, 36 months, 48 months from now, and what the next thing is.
Michael, where are you getting these devices from? Because obviously in the US it's quite difficult.
So I got mine from GizTop.
GizTop. Oh yeah, I've heard them. Heard of them. Yeah.
I've perused their website. If you're looking for Huawei, they don't have anything. But if you want like Vivo and Realme, there's some. I've seen Mizu devices on there. Just lots of Xiaomi. They got a lot of those kind of devices available.
iQOO.
Yeah, iQOO. I saw a couple of those too.
Well, they're all under the same parent company, so it makes sense that you kind of have all those together. Hopefully, I mean, and then if you cross compare, it's basically like, well, the iQOO the iQOO 9T is kind of is kind of the like a cross between of it's like a kind of a not quite a Vivo X80 Pro, it's not quite a Vivo X80, and then you have like the you know the Meizus and the stuff like that, that they're kind of a balance between each other. And then Oppo, of course, is in there, and then OnePlus is the, you know, Americanized version of it, which is now shifted and using more color OS centric stuff, which some people are conflicted about. And now there's discussion though that the OnePlus 11 Pro is kind of gonna be using the Xiaomi 12s Ultra 1-inch sensor size in
Yeah.
there, and but doing their own. But obviously they're not under the same brand, so there's all this interesting. And even like I was excited about there was the brand that was called Awesome, OSOM, and it was the and their whole idea of like you know, they have the rights from, or they were some of the company from the Essential Company, and also some people from I believe that were under like OnePlus back in the day, and you have
Oh, okay.
different people that were coming in place, and they were trying to do their own thing. But now it's become like a cryptocurrency thing, and I'm like, no, I don't want to deal with like NFTs on
Yeah.
my phone, and like, what are you doing? Like, do what you were gonna do, not. And so it's like
Let's
seems
not
like
get
it's
into
been really
that.
delayed and kind of killed off. And so I don't know, this whole like discussion of like what do you do anymore, and it's like no wonder these companies are the way that they are. Like I had the realization today, it's like no wonder Samsung and Apple are the main two that we talk about in the United States, and other countries even have like their main, like Xiaomi's up there pretty high, and they have their pretty solid fan group, and you know we have that in each area, and it's no wonder. And like the Pixels just came out, and there's been this like, well, this question going around like, you know, if you were to discuss, if you were to recommend a device to people, what would you recommend? And it's like, well, it kind of depends. And there was even a question
Yeah.
today like, does the
It's a bit
Pixel
broad,
or
isn't it,
does
that
Samsung
question?
represent Android better? And my thing was like, well, I kind of feel like Samsung does at this point, only because of like the confusion to me with the Pixel is why do they not even have like a video out mode, let alone a desktop mode, when desktop is now like native part of Android. And so there's like this discussion of which really utilizes the full openness of it. But then
It's a good point.
Yeah.
like the Pixel's bootloader is open, while Samsung's is not as open, but they also allow more like customization while you're inside the bootloader still. And then, you know, Apple has always been more closed down, but then they've also been opening up with their APIs, and like they announced Matter integration, and then now they announced like working with Google and Microsoft to kind of annihilate the necessity for passwords in the like typical form of them. But then Google announces this device, and they announced all this ecosystem, and they're kind of closed, and they kind of started the opposite of being more open, but then now they're more closed, and it's all confusing because it's like Apple started the opposite and it was opening up and allowing other companies to do stuff because they realize that that needs to be done. But then the other companies are kind of doing the opposite to kind of meet in the middle, and it's like I feel like there does need to be that balance because certain things just can't be too far open, and because we deal with like that chaos of development, and it becomes more difficult when you have too many variables. It's like an experiment. You can't have too
Mm.
many variables. You create this like chaotic structure, and we all know how chaos doesn't help, and you know chaos has caused wars literally and explosions, and controlled chaos is awesome, but not under like under the. And so to me it's like, well, what are you going to do with it? And it's like, okay, I can recommend a Pixel to somebody because it has the beautiful simplicity and it takes great photos and stuff, but at the same time, then why don't I recommend an iPhone? Like, am I like, if you're doing split screen and you're doing some of the like customization stuff, yeah, but at the same time it's like, well, then what really differentiates? Because on the iPhone side, then you have Apple, who's been doing this for so long. If you have somebody that's potentially going to go into an ecosystem, they're already working with companies and develop stuff, and I feel like have a more stable hardware and software, like, because there's this discussion of like Google's killed off stuff, and that's concerning to people. And like even my sister, who's been using Pixel since the early Pixel, is being frustrated with like the last generation of the Pixel. So it's like, what do you do? I guess it's you don't blanket recommend anything. You ask questions and you determine like,
Yeah.
okay, do you want to go into a well-developed ecosystem now? Do you, or are you just starting with a device and you don't really care? How open do you want it? Are you okay with investing all with one company, because that's the Google side. But then like Apple has their HomeKit stuff that's more where you can go buy like cheap stuff from TP-Link, and or you can use Philips Hue, or you can use like Eufy, which is a sub brand of Anchor, and like they're actually more and more allowing third brands to work with it, where like the new stuff that Google just announced is really well balanced with Google, but I'm like really conflicted the direction they're going because I don't understand Google right now. Because, and then there's the, do I even recommend like a 7 or 7 Pro to somebody, knowing that the 6A was such a great balance of like, you had like 95% of what, so I said to somebody, the Pixel 6A is kind of 90% of what the 6 was, and then the 6 was 95% of what the 6 Pro was. Like, I mean, that's not exact numbers, but like as far as like a balance.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, definitely.
So when the A line is out, do I even recommend that, or do I just say, well, wait for the 7A because we know that it's going to get a lot of what the 7 had, and like, unless you're gaming and you really need the high refresh rate, or like you're going to take advantage of the LTPO, but even then it's not like the newer generation LTPO where it goes all the way down. Battery life between the three isn't drastically different based on the difference in use, because if you're gaming and you're going to take advantage of that, then you're also going to benefit from when it doesn't need to be full capacity, and you're going to get like the 90 hertz is the people that kind of want the smooth experience but don't need that high end, and so they're going to get pretty good battery. And then the 6A tend to get like the differential is like what 10 or 15% at most margin from like, and so you're going to spend, what are you going to spend, twice the price on the Pro, or you're going to spend 50% higher on the 6 than you're spending on the 6A. So like there's this confliction of Google doesn't really, I don't know what they're doing. Like I'm confused, where Apple is very sure about like, we have these different price points and you know where they're aimed. They know their own market and they know the target. And Samsung is gotten more in focus even then. So I'm really conflicted with like right now what direction. So I've told people like, if you're fine with what you're fine with, just buy the 6A if you need a phone now and you're not going to use all the fancy extra, or wait for the 7A if you need like the 10th or 2 stuff. But even then, what was funny to me is the day that the Pixel event was, I got an update for the Google Photos app on my iPhone, and it says with features coming over the next few weeks. Well, knowing what I know from last year, where they brought a lot of those tweaks into the Google Photos app, I'm guessing the unblur stuff will just be pushed in an update, so you'll be able to use that whether you're on the 7
Possibly,
Pro,
yeah.
or Pixel 6
Possibly.
Pro, Pixel 6, 6A, 5, any phone out there pretty much.
I just don't suggest anything. I just don't suggest anything to anybody.
So I'm really conflicted. Like when you tell me all this stuff, what do I recommend? I guess I recommend whatever your price point is and what you're focused on.
I've tried.
Yeah, it's all personal, isn't it? It's personal use.
And I just don't recommend phones to anybody. I'm like, just buy whatever you want.
I do. Yeah, just my job.
Well, your job, right? But mine, and like I said, and then people go, because then you could sit there like Michael just went through, essentially a 10-minute discussion about, and we could keep going of like, this goes here and this goes here and this leverages this, but then it's a price point, then it's a fit and finish, then it's a capability, then it's an ecosystem. It's just like you could spend, and most people, I'm telling you, when you talk to regular people who use stuff, they literally just, you watch their eyes just glaze over. They're like, yeah, I just
see, for me,
I had an S7, so I'm just going to buy that. Another one.
I want to try and answer what Google's doing at the moment. I think there's 2 things they're doing. They're doing different things with AI smarts with their chipset, which differentiates them from everyone else. And the other thing is value for money. If you look at their price points of their devices and where they sit, like the Pro is a flagship device. And at $899, is that how much it is in the US? Or $849 in the UK? That's fantastic value. And then you go down to the 6, $599 in the UK. That is crazy value. And then the 6A, like you said, with the Tensor chip still in it, again, it's just crazy value. Yeah, but you've got the AI smarts in there as well, which really differentiates them. That's what I think Google's doing. But it's hard to articulate that. That's why they've started to market it with things like Magic Eraser.
Right. And True Tone.
Because that's using the AI smarts and value for money.
And
that's what they're doing. That's my opinion.
Yeah, they're behind Samsung. They're behind Apple, so they're going to have to do some catch up. And I think they're at least now they're trying to throw some weight into it marketing wise and getting that word out there. I think they're trying, so that's a good.
They're late to the show, very late to the show, but finally But yeah, I can see where people are confused about what they're trying to achieve, but that's what I think they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think so.
So, do you? I know I'm probably, I'm the guest, so I'm not technically supposed to be the one asking questions.
Oh,
I guess,
fire
but
away,
whatever,
No,
This
this is
is
a
not a
talk show.
typical
It's all,
show by
I
any.
know,
any
but
It's
it
not
was
typical,
funny. I made
no.
that joke. I made that joke about I'm usually the host, so I'm used to a different operation of things, and sometimes I have to set my mind aside of when I'm on something, and I've been. You guys are very. I would say you guys are very good at this. I've been on streams before where I'm like, you've been doing this for how long? And it's conflicting to my mind.
Okay, he said we're actually pretty good at this. He clearly is not paying attention to our show. No, I'm Sky.
But
I very much appreciate that.
So my
That's
question,
made my day.
Yeah, my question would be, so we live in a day where it seems to be, I mean, not the general consumer, but like we as like people that do what we do, is if we're creators, if we're like analysts, if we're whatever we're doing, whatever we want to call ourselves, we tend to do what's called like comparative discussions, right? Where we look at like, so where I'm conflicted with Google right now is that you can compare them to themselves and to others, and there's like this conflict of like not knowing, because like I said, because of the differential, where like when you look at the iPhone, you can say, well, obviously the Pixel 6a like wrecks the iPhone SE for the price point, and then you go and you look at the Pixel 6 and you go, well, it still really does. But then when you get to like the 7 Pro, it depends on what you compare it to, because you could be $100 difference really to like the Pro model iPhone or like an S22 Plus kind of thing. So it depends on where you start to. And so I think where Google needs to focus, and that one thing that they I felt like they shouldn't have brought up, and yeah, they were poking fun at Apple, saying we've had all this stuff first. I think they shouldn't do that, because then you're saying go look.
They
at
all
these
do
other
it though.
You're saying go look at but then you're being like go look at these other companies, right? When you mention your somebody else's name, then I feel like they just really shouldn't do that.
Did they?
Just
Didn't
kind
name
of
them,
talk about what you're no, but they alluded
They might as well
to
have.
it.
They might as well
have. And
yeah, but companies do it all the time. They're constantly like saying that and then having to walk it back a year later or 2 years later. And you're like,
but by comparison, when we see like Apple did their announcements for like their M2 chip, right, and they compare to the nearest competitor. Well, we don't know. Is that NVIDIA? Is that AMD? Is that Intel? Is that or are they talking about like MSI or Dell or HP, or like what companies they're talking about? Where I feel like Google's focus is primarily in like their structure of discussion and marketing really should just be like, this is what we do really well, and that's all that they need to focus on. Not like,
I agree
this is
with
how
that.
we compete with others, because you don't. Because then when you do that and you start looking into things, then it's like, well, yeah, but your Chromecast, your Chromecast does this really well compared to AirPlay, but AirPlay doesn't but Chromecast launches essentially applets where AirPlay works, whether between devices without having to have a Wi-Fi network, and you have like people focusing more on like developing apps that are native to, and you start to like get people looking at like, what does this do over? So focus on what you do really well, and talk about like, okay, we focus on privacy. They discussed that. We're focusing on
security,
bringing all the things that you love about the Pixel to our watch, and these are the things. So what they can do is re-mention things that they've already been doing for the last couple of years, but make it sound new by talking about how they're bringing it to new hardware. Where before, what kind of got me, and I know this is going to be something that a lot of people are going to disagree with, but I was kind of bored at the beginning of the presentation because I felt like it was too much like Google I/O discussion still, and they should have gone right into like the new hardware and this is a hardware thing. It's like how Apple has Mobile World, you have MWC and used to, and you have the WWDC, Worldwide Developers Conference, and then Apple has their different events. It was too much of a blend for me, and it threw me off. So I felt like the focus for Google, and I actually wrote something, and I was surprised that they didn't do this, was like, they could have really broken down about how you can save time utilizing certain features in reference to time on a watch, but how that also saves you time from not like having to necessarily pick up your phone all the time, and like the mental health and physical health and all the other benefits of like you don't have to carry your phone but you can still look real quick and get notifications, and how like their assistant is above par as far as like response, and they could have demoed that. They did a lot of talk, but not a lot of show in the areas I think that differentiate them. So it's like we have to kind of trust your word as opposed to demo. Like if you notice how like Samsung and Apple and other companies, they're great at demos. That's an emotional connection. Words are one thing, but like when you can demonstrate and create a like a mental and emotional bind to an experience, you draw people in more. And that's like even the way I try to articulate when I'm describing things is drawing a picture. So like if I said to you, um, if I say to you, well, here's this watch, and it has all this great Fitbit integration, and you can track all your steps and your heart rate and your SO2, and it gets 24 hours of battery life, or up to 24 hours of battery life, and it's 349 and 399, depending on if you get the regular or the cellular. Or I say to you, or I demonstrate and I show like a firefighter who has just run out from like the end of their day and they're exhausted, and they look down at their watch and they see like all the calories they burnt, and then they see like a I love you and a heart face pops up and it says like from wife or whatever. That creates a much more emotional bond, and like in that simple second you demonstrated how it can be utilized, but also how you create that connection to things that you might have missed real quick, and then they pop up on their phone and they reply, and they use Google Assistant, call wife, and they're hopping in, and they're off on their way, and they're utilizing, or they're replying with their voice real quick, and you create more of a visual, and you create more of an emotional response and a utility that literally in a fraction of the time I feel like creates a better representation and a better experience and a more of a connection to what that can do different than other companies, because other companies can do that but not quite that well as far as like the buying, the crossover, the utility. And nobody has to know what Fitbit is. Nobody has to even know what a Google Pixel is to have that experience. And then you say, this is what the Pixel and this is what the Pixel Watch does. And here at Google, this is an experience that we create, that we want to unite people and not separate them. And then they could have mentioned RCS right there as well, and not thrown shade, but like how we're developing Google Messages, and how we're developing our AI, and how we're developing this experience that creates that connection, because people don't want to be separated.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I kind of do.
So I don't think it was
not entirely, but
I think Google's being cautious with the watch, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I think the focus was mostly on the phones, and they made a big thing about the tablet as well, didn't they?
And then it was confusing because I thought that they were going to say like, and we're launching a tablet and it's early. I know we said because at the beginning the way they represented, and then they're like, oh, it's still pushed back to next year, which I get.
Yeah, I'm quite excited by it though with the hub.
Yeah,
I think that's because tablets do just lie around your house doing nothing most of the time. So when instead of doing that, they could be a hub in your home. I think that's pretty cool.
I really hope that they focus on, and they mentioned this when they announced that, if there's a separate utility of that hub apart from, because what about the people that really want this tablet and they look at it and they're like, okay, I don't know, let's say it's $400 or $450 or
needs to be priced around
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Let's say it's $599 with the speaker, right? But they say, the speaker creates and provides an experience equally as good as like, or better than like their $50, Nest Hub speaker. It's $150 value. So when you walk away from home, can you Chromecast to it? Can you Bluetooth connect to it? Or when Sam is using his Chrome tablet and Joe's over visiting, is that is that dock like dead space? Is that just like a pile of
Needs to be
rocks on your
functional,
desk
more
that can't
functional.
function
Yeah.
apart from the? Because if that's the case, then I might as well like I don't know why like what the benefit of that. Or I guess like multiple tablets, because then somebody else could dock their tablet on it, and then when they're using it, they don't need to. And I'm hoping that they also have some sort of obviously it's going to be able to connect and charge normally. But I'll be
Yeah.
curious to see like will they also then offer a cable or like just a regular dock that connects for the pins for just regular charging stuff for like, or like in your car would be kind of a neat like up at your windshield and it clicks in, because if you look how
Yeah.
they had the pins at the
Android
bottom and the
Auto.
back, and then utilize it, and even without you Android Auto, just because it has it on itself, like offer an
Yeah.
LTE model for like $50 more, because everybody else charges 100 or $150 to jump between, but offer like and it doesn't have to be 5G either. Then like you can start
No,
it
it
off with
doesn't.
like
No.
LTE now, and then cut that point, because right now I think because it's 5G, that's where we see like the $150 price jump. And then say, well, we are doing this because it pulls up combined with our Tensor 2 chip, it pulls up maps really well, because of on device transcription. You don't need a high data connection to the web, like all this stuff that you're going to do on it. So you provide almost like that, what a Tesla provides in the middle, or Android Auto, to like
Yeah.
anybody. You could have an old vehicle, like a 1981 car that has like
Google
no
Fi
other
it.
connection, no Bluetooth, and literally just dock this thing for. And if you think about it, that is an experience that's really unique to what they can do, apart from, because I don't know that I would like an iPad. Yeah, you could do it, but like when you get home, the fact that just dock to dock, the connection.
So with
the
that, I feel like a
experience.
7-inch version would be better.
Yeah, that too. But we don't really know
Yeah.
what size it is. That was kind of like their
True.
angles they were
Yeah, that is
shooting in
true.
from the back, and like I feel like it was a 10-inch
They
maybe.
did mention 2 variants, didn't they? Kind of. So
So
Yeah,
maybe there is 2 sizes.
I wouldn't get a
Who
tablet,
knows?
but if they made a Pixel Fold, like in a tablet, kind of like if that's I would. I'm not buying a tablet. I don't care who's making it. I don't care what it is. It's not. I've had.
See, I like
last
tablets, me.
The last tablet I had was my old Nexus 2013 tablet, and then
Oh,
I
wow.
never really used it. And so, and now that I've got a Duo, I mean, I got essentially the same. If you make it 7-inch, I've got this, and this works on maps, and it's nice because I can put the map across, or I can have maps running where I'm still doing.
That's a nice skin you've got on there, Sam.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at that. Where's that from?
Extremeskins.co.uk, green camo, get you some. They sell all sorts of skins.
The funny thing about folds is like, yes, I am bifolding. I have the Fold 4 as well, and the funny thing to me is like the more and more I use this, I wish that Samsung had a small like I want like an iPad Mini Pro, like in the Android side. So like I have the Tab S8, but I would like something, because I can when I have this open and I'm like laying here in bed and I can do this with one hand, right? Because of the width of it. If you made it a little bit taller, so that like they're A-line, but with like professional specs, so you get the good cameras and you get like the OLED display and you get the better processor and more memory and stuff, and like DeX. I feel like, because then the price point you'd be able to, but the problem would be like that would probably be more expensive than the S at that point, because of, but I feel like that's something that they could do, and it would be really cool to like have just a pocket, almost like a pocketable tablet at that point, or like a purseable, and you get the full on water and dust resistance. You get the fact that you can use like a regular stylus and not like the fold version of it. You get like the benefit of it's a lot easier to find like stands or like clip mounts that go in your car for it, because you have to be really careful about putting pressure obviously on the sides with the fold sometimes, and even like where the charger aligns for wireless charging, they have to build it a certain way, because when you rotate the fold, it shifts it. So you have to have like coils side by side, but then also top and bottom. So depending on which way, I don't know. I just feel like they could do that. Maybe have like the S8 Plus and the S8 Ultra as like their line of things, and then have a smaller tablet that's got that kind of, I don't know. I just feel like that would be an awesome thing to have. and especially
The
because
tablet that folds.
the benefit of DeX. To me, it's like, because I don't want to get into like a DeX versus Stage Manager thing because I'm gonna make people upset when I say certain things. But anyways, to me, DeX, like, the benefit it has is that you have the regular UI on your device, but when you dock it up, you get this like expansive, different UI. So when you have a tablet, the fact that it can run it on it, but then when you plug it in, you also lose it running on, it doesn't run on it and externally at the same time. So those are some of the, like the, but on a small tablet, I feel like that would be awesome. So like I have tablet mode, and you get like someplace and you dock it, and you really get the benefit of the UI change by having it be a larger device versus like now it's kind of like I have the same UI on my tablet as I have on, when there's no need for that crossover. I don't know. That's just my, kind of thought on it. It'd be an awesome, it's small, so you use it as a tablet for what a tablet should be for reading. You might do a couple apps split side by side, but when you really need to do like the multiple apps. And then also because if you put a good camera into it, and even if you had a way of like doing two cameras on the front, so one's designed like when you're using it in normal tablet mode, and then you have one that's angled down, so when you put your tablet on a dock, it angles up at your face, right? So you set it beside your monitor and you hook it up for DeX, and now it's designed to be angled in and kind of upright, so you can use it for doing stuff like this and nobody knows that that's what you're doing. And with a tablet, you have more space. You don't have to have hole punches, you don't have to have notches, you don't have to have, I don't know. It was just the thought I had because I'm like, I like this and that I can throw it in my pocket. But the downside is like, you can't put you can't make it thicker, so your battery limitation is there. So for somebody that I would love to just have like a tablet that's just a little bit bigger than that. So because when I open this up,
But goes up smaller.
well, when I open
yeah.
this up, the section of it that takes up video, if I'm holding it normally, is like the same size as like my 14 Pro Max, not pinched out but in the middle. I like held it up each way, and now when you rotate it the other way, it gets a little bit bigger. But like the aspect ratio is a but then I understand why they did it, because when you have a device like my Vivo that's like a normal size on the outside, when you open it up on the inside, it becomes a big square, so you get even more like black bars on the top and the bottom. And then also it's kind of more wieldy to hold even in two hands because it makes it that much wider. And then I had a realization of something the other night. I was like, so Samsung doesn't need it because they have the under display camera, thing going on, which we can get it, that's debatable. I feel like they should have just gotten rid of it if they were going to do that.
Yeah, I don't feel there's any need for it.
I really liked the original Fold, how it had the notch in the corner, because I feel like they could have done something similar and then had like two cameras for different things. Because the thing where those were located, they were low enough down that when you did video, it never cut into your video. So on like my Vivo, it has an actual hole punch. So whenever I do video, no matter which, unless I have it sideways where your speakers are at the top and the bottom, it cuts into it. And I don't know why they don't make it so it just like pushes the content up so the hole's below it.
See, for me, I don't have a problem with a forehead.
I don't know.
Like, do the Sony thing. Just have a little forehead. It's fine. There's no problem with that.
I don't know. The Pixel Fold would be awesome. Or even like a Pixel Duo would be pretty sweet.
Yeah,
because like their camera advantage, the way that they do the camera stuff, you wouldn't have to necessarily have the thicker stuff like in there. I don't think you would necessarily have to do that.
You could use the old 12 megapixel 6A cameras on the Duo. Yeah, that would be awesome.
And then price it just right. But then the problem is you have
to,
like, what do you put it at? What do you put it at? Because if a 7 Pro is $899, $999, and then what is it for the 512 gig? It's $1099. So you'd have to put your Fold at like $12.99, $13.99, like $13.99, far enough that it's above kind of the other devices maybe, but not too high that it's like, well, I might as well buy a Galaxy Fold because they've been at it for longer, sort of thing. So, but man, that would be awesome. $13.99 for like a for like the camera stuff you get, and then like Android 12L is really developed.
Yeah, that's
And
massive.
then you give like a good watch that's with it. Oh man. Put the
There's huge
pins on it so
potential
you
for
can
Google.
dock it to that. So you can dock it to the dock that they're gonna use for their tablet.
Yeah, now we're talking. Yeah.
And then also, make a dock that supports a desktop mode. So you dock the Duo and you get like a Chrome OS experience.
I think Google fans are shouting out for that. Yeah, definitely.
But then it would be the like, because somebody's not gonna buy. You're not saying, well, that's gonna kill the Pixel. No, because somebody is gonna buy that because they want to replace all these devices, so they're willing to spend like twice as much as a Pixel 7, or like 3-4 times as much as like an A line.
Different
device,
customer, isn't
because
it? Different
they
person.
want something that replaces their phone, wide enough that you get duals for like multitasking, and like their computer, because they're replacing right there like $4,000 in devices for way cheaper. So it doesn't. It's like people thought that the iPad would affect the Mac sales, and they've never had higher like iPad and Mac sales like ever.
Yeah, true.
Different utilities.
And I agree. So that to that point, I think you're correct. And also too, I don't get on the price point issue, because now with trade-ins and stuff, companies have pretty much offset all that. I mean, when was the last time you really paid full price for any device? Like, you haven't. I traded in this device. I traded in that.
Just
device.
the other day.
Free watch. I mean, Joe just did the other day. You even got a watch out of it, right?
I mean,
when that's what I'm saying.
When I bought my Apple Watch, that was about it. But
and I hate that argument, because right now you can get a Duo for $9.99. Nobody's buying it. No, I was like, well, and I hear those, and it's the same people. It's not in this chat, because our chat people are awesome and they're smart and they know what's up. But I've heard so many people go, man, that Duo at $14.99 is a bunch of shit. But if it was like $7.99, you buy it. Okay, now it's $7.99. You buying it? Nah, man, I moved on and I don't want it. Like, man, fuck you, bullshit. You weren't going to buy it.
It's true.
What the price was.
Very true.
So, and here's the thing: people go out and spend $100,000 for a Tesla, but you can buy it. I went to the other day. My wife has a Hyundai, so we went to the store to get her car service, and they had one of those Ioniq 5s. Now you couldn't drive it because they didn't actually have a charger at the fucking dealership. How stupid is that? But whatever. So you could get in it though, and I was like, oh, this is kind of nice. It was kind of nice and set up. I like this. It looked good from the outside. It was like $39,600. And I was like, okay, well, again, it's not a Tesla, so you can't flex and show all your neighbors you got a Tesla. It's a Hyundai, but still, for half the price, nobody cares how much Tesla's Model 3s cost. People are buying Mach-E's, or the Mustang, the Ford Mustang, the electric Mustang, which is not a Mustang. It's just they didn't want to call it an electric Edge because that's not cool enough. Throw a pony logo on it, that's cool. But they've been marking them up. They have like those dealer adjustments where they're marking them up $20,000 just because they know people will buy them. And they're like $100,000, and people don't even think twice about spending that kind of money. That's like what is that? Like $1,300 a month? My house doesn't even cost that much. And it's like, so I get off this argument about price point, because nobody in the United States is, very few people, maybe the people in this chat, are buying phones off contract at the store, paying full price, walking in and buying a Pixel off the shelf, or buying a Moto Edge off the shelf, or buying a Flip at full price, right? They're either leveraging a contract, they're burning an upgrade, they're adding a line, and they're trading in 3 or 4 phones to get deals, right? So,
or they're crazy like me, and they, sold devices, did things,
sure,
saved up money for a while, and then they went on Giztop and bought like $4,000 of devices,
right.
in like 3 months.
And then run into the unfortunate situation that you're in with the Vivo, where if you break it, now what are you going to do? You can't take it to a local shop. So that's the risk you run, which is unfortunate.
But needless to say, I love those devices, and I'll hold on to them, and they're they are what they are, and like their support and like their update, and I can't experience that without like knowing. Yeah, I could ask people, but like that's not the same thing, right? And so like these were my first kind of real import devices, and there'll be things that I'll hold on for a long time, and by the time I get rid of them, it'll probably cost me less than what I would have spent on other devices. And yeah, like you're right, I traded in. Literally, I got Flip 4, Fold 4, Galaxy Buds 2 Pro, and the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro, because I traded in other devices that I had gotten them free, through my carrier, so they pay per month. And then what's crazy is Samsung will take them even though they're still under payment. and my carrier is not going to care because the only way that's ever going to come off is like if I leave them, right? So they keep giving me the credits for those 24 months. And then my Fold I bought on Amazon for well, it was $920 with that, like a $70 case and taxes. So it was like $820 for the Fold originally. I bought the Fold 3, renewed, and I traded that in, and they gave me like 900, or it was like $1,000 plus like $200, credits for stuff. And then the Flip, basically, I traded in, I paid like the $100 plus tax. And what was crazy is my Flip was the 128, and I got the 256, and it was when they initially had it before they changed things to where you were getting like 700 and 900 depending on the capacity. So I got the 900 for that plus. So by the time I'm all said and done, with what I was actually paying for all these devices, and this was literally cheaper than an iPhone 14. Like if you bought that off the shelf, and I got like $5,000 in devices. Involved. Crazy,
right.
Like
and there free gifts involved as well.
In cases, in my 2 wireless charging dual stands, a black one and a
free stuff they give
white
now.
one, and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, obviously I had the initial costs on stuff, but some of that was so cheap. Some of that was like I paid a lot less than what they even gave me for it, or it was through my carrier, so they're paying for it. And like my Flip is on an added line where T-Mobile pays for the line too, so it's there's things like that. And then when with my iPhone, I paid the difference. I paid like $210 because it was $144 plus taxes, and then they gave me $1,000 for my old phone. So I went from 13 Pro to a 14 Pro Max for a couple $100. So nobody pays for
ridiculous.
Literally everything I spent between like all that, and I got all this boatload of stuff, was still less than
what
I would have spent for a 256 gig 14 or plus, or whatever. And my wife is going to get a trade up, and that's the thing. And like even Google this year is doing okay deal, and the Pixel stuff, like through my carrier, like I have T-Mobile, I have to have Magenta Max to do it, but they're giving like $800 for almost anything. You could go buy an LG V60 online for like $200, and they'll give you $800. So
right, that's what I'm saying. So I mean,
so you could spend $200.
You're not plus, even leveraging any of those prices. Basically, it's all these trades, and I mean, eventually at some point you'll catch up. But that's what I mean. It's like I'm not saying you should completely ignore the MSRP on any of these devices. But to make that the grounding point of your argument, when most of the time it's either a specious argument, you're not actually going to do it, or you're just doing it to be argumentative and everything else. And it when you break it down logically, you just described what a lot of people probably are here doing, trading in at least one device, right? And then you get these deals, and there's, Joe, you got the Pixel 7, right? And you got the watch with it.
7 Pro.
The 7 Pro.
And the watch was free. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just giving shit away. So who gives a shit to watch
giving shit away?
It could be $9,000. And if you got it for free, you got it for free. And if you wait 6 months,
what was funny though,
things you can buy cheaper.
Sam, listen to this, right? I had a choice of picking the Buds Pro or the watch. As if I'm going to pick the Buds Pro. If I wanted the Buds Pro, I'd get the watch, sell it, and buy the Buds Pro and be better off. It's just like, why give me the option?
Right. And then, like I said, I mean, trade-ins are, even Dan's even saying, trade-ins are crazy.
Yeah, Samsung trade-ins are crazy.
Yeah. So, Michael, that's what I'm
saying.
In
the US.
I get your point, and I agree with you. And I just don't think a lot of people are really leveraging price point. And I think when people want to hang that as their major differentiator and why they're getting this phone as opposed to that phone, I really don't think they are. Maybe they are, but I don't know. I mean,
they walk in and they go, okay, they either go, I want a Pixel, I want an iPhone, I want a Samsung, I want a OnePlus, I want a Motorola, whatever they're already using, maybe. Or they go and they say, what devices do you have for, $8.33 a month? And the crazy thing is, with these deals where they'll be like, well, if you have any device to trade in, or like, oh, you can add a line, and like some carrier like T-Mobile, you can get a free line. So that's what some, you have people doing, or whatever the deals are, and you can pay, super cheap per month, and they'll walk out with it. And most people are keeping their devices 2.5, 3 years as it is. And then when that time is up, they trade it in, or they're halfway through and they pay like the remaining remaining $400-500 on it or whatever, and they get the next year's device, and once your initial costs is. And the more you do those trade-ins, it gets cheaper and cheaper. It's kind of funny if you think about it, because if you have a $1,000 device or a $1,200 device, and they'll turn around and give you basically the same price, and so you pay like $200 to get the next one. Well, now you've paid $1,200 or $1,400, but for 2 devices, and then the next year now you've paid like $1,600, but for 3 devices. Now you've paid $1,800, but for 4. So as you go further out, it gets less and less. Now, obviously, they keep you on contract, so you're paying your plan per month, but you're paying that anyways, most likely.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
See, for the carriers though, the carriers, their business isn't the devices. Their business is the network. It's all the airtime. So for them, they're like, yeah, whatever.
But T-Mobile probably hates me because I have three paid lines and 3 free lines, and my devices. I'm always
no. They probably love you, man. They probably love you.
Yeah, but if you think about like versus 6 paid lines, so I have $100 and some worth of lines that are free plus the devices.
Right now, you're talking about them.
Yeah.
Right now, you're talking about them because.
And also, most people, to be fair, Michael, aren't probably doing what you do. They're probably
you're an exception.
A little bit, maybe have a paid off line. Maybe 2, but most people, they're if they have a line, they're paying for their T-Mobile, their O2 service, or their AT&T service. They have devices that they'll pay one off, and then they get like one paid off. I'm like, okay, now I got a free one to burn. So 3 months later, a device comes up, and they have this fantastic deal, and you go in there, and you're like, hey, while you're here, let's So it's interesting to see how that all works out. But I'm actually kind of glad they're not coming out with a Duo 3 this year. I'm kind of glad that they're really focused on.
But definitely not.
Yeah,
no, 100% not.
No, it would be out already. It's October. It would be.
Yeah, but they don't stick to a regime, do they? They do things quite random.
I think that Shane and Daniel Rubino and Zach Bowden, they've been talking about that they are skipping Duo 3. There is no Duo.
Really?
22. Yeah, they're skipping, which is fine by me. This is perfectly.
Don't lie, Sam. Don't lie, Sam.
Well, again, if I'm full of shit, then this Duo better show up in 3 weeks because it's not going to. It's.
No, I mean, don't lie as in you're happy. You're fine with it. You're not fine with it.
No, I'm actually.
I know you're not.
No, I'm actually okay with it.
You enjoy your Duo, didn't you?
Yeah.
Michael, have you tried the Duo?
I don't need another year upgrade.
I haven't yet. So here. So the original Duo. I know it started off a little rough and there were some software things, and I actually feel like right now that would be a great device for people to try if they're going to try one, because you can go get the original Duo for like what, $300-400, and you're not, device. And a lot of the software stuff as far as I'm concerned, has been pushed kind of to the original that's also on the second one, unless you don't have like the camera bump. So if you are, it wouldn't bother me, and it doesn't seem to really bother people. But if you really want a device that you can fold back to back and it's flat, and you do have like the other camera on the front and some stuff like, some of the stuff that and you're not sure if you're going to hold on to it for a long time, and you just want to like test and see what that kind of dual screen like experience is, it's pretty cool. I had like the LG Velvet, which was, the dual screen, and I really liked the idea that you had that apart. Yeah. Although that was kind of also a pain. Like, it wasn't exactly the easiest to go, and then you had to have like a secondary case for when you take the phone out of it, right?
Yeah.
And the wing was cool, but it didn't have like, it only had like a single speaker, so that's kind of what threw me
off.
And
no headphone jack, which kind of
when you did the gimbal mode, it limited it to like a 1080p and like wasn't as good of, so there were some limitations, but there were some cool things. But the Duo, what has
engineering
is seeing what happens when you connect it up and you mirror it, and how it treats it like one thing. So if you put it on,
I see that scary.
How it looks like one. I
would like to see one slab.
Yeah,
I would like to see them allow that and allows you to close the device. Like, you can close your laptop and it, not shut off the display would be pretty cool. Like, you just I'm going to use that, and you still have because others, you get the black bars, or you have to have like a full on desktop mode, or, you lose some of and even like the way that they focused on when you open an app on one screen, how it pushes everything over to the other. So when you have your apps split across both home screens, like that, some of that stuff just really intrigues me. And it'll be interesting to see, like, I feel like when they do come out with the 3, it's going to be one of the first of like devices in a long time that 3 is a lucky number, because I feel like 3 has been a really bad number for a lot of companies if you think about it. Like really the iPhone 3 series was okay, but it wasn't really the the 3G, 3GS like that along that line wasn't really. The Z Fold 3 was kind of a The 4 fixed some of the battery life stuff, but didn't really. It was like
the camera's better as well.
It's a refinement. The camera's better. I like the hinge better. I feel like it's gonna be one of the first times that 3 in tech is gonna be maybe a lucky number. But and Microsoft,
the Surface 3, the third Surface is really the one that kind of took off for everybody. They kind of finally started to get some market traction. They finally started to work out some of the hardware and software issues, and it started to really take off. And that's, so I'm okay with, honestly, I'm okay with, again, I'd rather just, instead of having an iterative update, because if they're going to relaunch, it would be more like a Duo 2A, right? Or a 2S, right? Really, they thought about actually having a plastic version of this. They were going to talk like like a Duo Lite, essentially, like it'd be more of a more affordable, same kind of display, but maybe different.
So as a companion device, I think the Duo is amazing.
Yeah, I use it as my primary, but like I said, I still have I have my Pixel, so it's a different
flippy dippy.
And my flippy dippy,
yeah.
which doesn't have the camo skin because of an issue. I'll have to reach out to them. I think they gave me the back panel of a floor. That's okay. I don't care. I'll buy it. I don't even care. But they're awesome. Yeah, the flippy dippy. See,
I got the matching case because
I do too. But
and it's the first time that Samsung's cases had been pretty good this year. Last year they were kind of like more oily to me.
Right.
And they felt kind of cheaper, but this year is pretty good. I mean, I'm even liking the kickstand case I might hold. Like it's
Joe,
decent grip and stuff.
Also, if you get the Duo, they actually have and I'll put the link in the show notes probably, but Gustavo, he's actually got a build of Windows 11 running on a Duo. And
I've heard about that.
Most of the stuff is worked out. I think he's working on like most of the capabilities. So if you really are in the mood and you want to get stupid and take your $300 Duo and you want to have some fun with it, there's a ways to install that Windows 11 on it, and it's pretty good. This guy's done a lot of really good API and work on the kernel. I mean, he's really good. I've been kind of watching it, so that's another reason why you can get a Duo. Just to play with the form.
Just have a play toy.
Something that kind of mess. I mean, how cool to be.
I mean, that's what we're tech guys. We love to play with things, right?
Right. And if you don't use it as a phone, that's okay. As he's developing, he's coming a long way in 6 months of developing it. It's pretty fascinating to watch this guy really do a labor of love and really put a lot of effort into it. It's pretty cool. I wish I would Windows 11 natively though, but that's okay.
What I would like to see Microsoft do that I think would be like a perfect opportunity next year. Is them to launch the Duo 3, and then we'll be at like the Surface Pro 10 next year, and then I don't know if you saw the thing that they were working on, like Intel had announced the integration with like Android and even iPhones being able to like send texts and like answer calls and like check photos and everything from a Windows machine, but it has to have 12th or 13th gen Intel, so no AMD at this point, because it's obviously Intel's building, working on the technology and working. And Dell actually Dell had a thing where you could have like the Dell app and kind of do that, but this is supposed to be like a kind of a native integration stuff. If they announce that all at once, because then they could be like, our Duo is integrated with the software that's developed and this and then maybe Snapdragon 8 plus Gen 2 or whatever would be out at that time, and some of the camera stuff and the better cooling efficiency and just all that, and in like the newer iGPUs from the 13th gen Intel, as far as like in the Surface, and even like the better battery performance and stuff that's coming with the newer Snapdragon processor. Just all that is going to be kind of an awesome experience, I feel like. And AMD's working on their next stuff as far as like the way that
I think AMD's the way to go now.
The way laptops. The memory works, and it shares, where they have like smart access memory, kind of how Apple does, but it's on separate, so it can share the GPU and the system memory. And because they're both so fast now, you can essentially have system memory act as like graphics memory and the opposite in a way. And that's some of the stuff that they're working on. So like their APUs are going to be pretty killer coming up. So some of that will be interesting too. But I feel like By then we were talking about what that time next year, probably 14th gen Intel will be coming out too. So you'll be far enough in that like the Intel Evo generations and like the efficiency and stuff should be improved. And now there's Intel Arc that just came out with their GPUs and all that fun stuff. But I do we're gonna have great ecosystems now. If you think about it, Samsung and
I'm starting to think
Google,
more about
Apple and Microsoft all have great, and then you have even like Huawei with their, and like Xiaomi and all this stuff is coming
don't
out.
get me started with Huawei. I'm so upset.
Right.
Even OnePlus now, they have their Nord watch that they announced that I guess is supposed to be better than what they did with the previous one that was the OnePlus watch that was kind of a mess. So it'd be cool to see, more competition is better.
Michael,
pushes companies to
quick question. You've got so many different phones right now. Which one is your favorite? Which one would you put your SIM in? Your personal SIM.
My personal SIM is in my iPhone.
Okay.
Mainly just, and it doesn't even necessarily have to do with like iMessage being iMessage. It has to do with like the native experience. So like when I grab my iPad or my MacBook, everything just links up there, and I don't have to like open an app. So where like if I go on my Windows machine, I'm like launching Telegram and like doing all this stuff to get it to just things to come in. Where on the Apple side right now, you don't really have that. Once you've signed in, like the stuff just pings across the notifications. But I dual wield, so I always have my Fold, and then my Galaxy Watch is on this arm. My Apple Watch is on this arm, and also
he's got a
proper dual wielding.
I got my AirPods Max,
and he's got an anklet. It's supposed to be like those house arrest things, but really it's just another watch.
And I got my Galaxy Buds.
It's the Mi Band
Pro 2. So and then I have my MacBook that I use for photo editing and thumbnails, or my iPad I use for that. But also I'm live streaming from my PC that I built 3.5 years ago. And
cool.
Using my Sony A6100, and I got my my Scarlett Solo Gen 3 connected up through XLR to my AKG P120, and I mean realistically,
you just love tech, man. That's good.
I use it all, and they all have their different like utilities and different
pros and cons
and different stuff, and like I love the fact that like my Galaxy Watch just is like a normal watch. But and gets pretty good battery life, but like my Apple Watch, I have things that I do like the walkie-talkie, which obviously brings us back to like Nextel, one button press days, but like I can do, and just like the tracking between the two, and the fact that that doesn't matter which device I'm using, I'm getting my notifications. And
you need to try Modvoy, the Modvoy Tick Watch Pro.
I did. I had the 3.
What was your thoughts of that?
The 3 GPS.
Decent.
It was good until it stopped working.
And
they told me they would send me another one and then ghosted me. So that was unfortunate. They were like, "Oh yeah, we'll send you the Ultra so you can use that." And I mean, now keep in mind TicWatch sent me the watch. So, but I was like, it just died, and I've literally had it for just over a year. I was like,
weird.
I'll buy another one if you want me to. But they were like, no, we'll send you one. And I was like, okay, cool. And then nothing. And so it kind of, I don't know. I've heard that though it's the sensors with that particular one. A lot of people had issues, but the Ultra, they fixed a lot of the concern.
Yeah.
And I really like the dual screen. The dual screen stuff.
That's what awesome. I like about it.
The battery life, you could have essentially always on display on all the time, and it didn't do anything because it's that power efficient display.
Awesome.
The watch band that I got that was like a fake leather was really comfortable compared to like the one that came with it. I had issues, allergy, like skin irritation issues, and they sent me a good, like, the experience was good until I was like, what's going on? So I got to contact them again and see maybe if the person left the company or what's going on. But I just liked it, and the cross utility,
So there you go. There's another option. So you can put that one on the inside of your forearm. Maybe last night if it had been.
Yeah.
You can rock them all at the same time.
Just buy a collar for it.
Right.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
I hate to cut the party short, but we're at 1 hour and 4 minutes. So
it goes so quick.
I know it's incredible. We had such a great conversation, have a great guest on here, and it's just like by the time you look up, it's like an hour of your life that Michael Pepper will never get back. Have to be on the show, but
Yeah, sorry,
we would
man.
like to have. Yeah, it's all.
Sorry
it's
for
okay.
taking your time.
So you can check.
Hopefully
our
you've
show out
enjoyed
on
it.
Yeah, the Purposely Pixel YouTube channel. That's where you can watch our show. And of course, we got extremeskins.co.uk. Please check them out. That's our sponsor for the channel. Michael, how can people watch your content and get a hold of you? And what's all the good ways to reach you on the interwebs?
YouTube.com/Michael Pepper TT. You can find me at Michael Pepper Tech on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, like basically all of them.
You name it, he's got it.
Joe, we gotta have a TikTok.
My TikTok every once in a while, I do like short when I have like quick blip ideas, and I'm like, I post them on both, and it's funny because TikTok will get like 2,000 views, and I'll get like 20 on YouTube. But
Right.
all
crazy,
of them,
man.
I've kept them all under the same thing. If you're into photography, you can also find me on Instagram, Michael Pepper Photography. That I've tried to do some things. So, and I guess I will put it as you kind of have. I've actually changed my thing slightly, and I need to upgrade my channel art for it. But I don't only talk tech; I live tech. And I guess the idea of that is it's just around us, and the way that you utilize it and experience it is your unique way of sharing that and creating that connective bond with your viewers, your people watching. So that's how I like to approach things. I do discussions, I do tech reviews, I do interviews. I break down, get behind people's minds, get to know them from kind of where they started to where they're going. And
yeah, I see that behind your mind. I quite like that.
Yeah, it's a good show.
You had Jacqueline on there, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
Try to be analytical without being complicated.
Yeah,
possible.
That's tough. That's hard. It's a fine line to walk. So
and just have fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man.
That's it. And that's probably the best way to end the show. So for myself and for Joe and Michael Pepper Tech, thanks for tuning in and listening to the Nomad Tech Project with Sam and Joe. We put it online, all the usual podcast stuff. You can check us out there. And thanks for everybody who showed up, Grounded and Jerome and Nicholas in Australia. Hell, we got some watching from Australia. That's fantastic. Barry and everybody else. Thanks a lot, guys. We love you guys. And thanks for coming in. Again, just like Michael Pepper said, please have fun with your tech. Enjoy it. And we'll be back next Sunday with another show. And thanks a lot for
just before we leave.
Yeah.
Arsenal's still top of the league. Love you guys.
There you go. Arsenal's and the Cardinals are out of the playoffs, so that's the end of my baseball season. So that sucks. So go Arsenal, and we'll see you next year in St. Louis Cardinal land. So for myself and for all of us, thanks for joining us. We're going to take off now. See you next Sunday. Again, thank you for watching. Love you guys. Take care. Have a good week.
Goodbye.